Today we
Absolutely.
have Dr. Robert Sikora teaching us about navigating team effectiveness. While Robert is speaking, I'd like to ask everybody, well, actually, normally we'd have everybody write in the chat box, but today we're going to keep it kind of conversational. Since we have kind of a smaller group, if you have any questions, you can just unmute your microphone and ask away, and we'll be having kind of a conversation as we go along here. And if you don't have a microphone, feel free to type into the chat box. I'll be monitoring that as we go along so that I can relay that info to Robert so we can get your questions answered as we go here. And yeah, so go ahead, Robert, and we'll get started here.
I appreciate it. Thank you. And yeah, it's great to be back with the OffiCenters group here. We've ran a few various programs over the years, and it's always been well received. We're fortunate in that we just were asked to present at the Association of Training and Development, the ATD, virtual coast-to-coast conference. That was from New York to Hawaii. It was an all-day conference. It started really early in the morning and went really late, and we did the keynote capstone for that. And it was nice. It was nice to kind of have a conversational approach. So if you don't mind, I know it's kind of during lunchtime for everybody, but just take a second and introduce yourselves. We got a small group. Kind of give a lay of the land. What is it that you do? The size of the organization. I know we're dealing with potentially some smaller organizations. Within OffiCenters like this, with navigating team effectiveness. We'll get into it here. It can be very very complex to very multi-dimensional. It can be very simplified depending upon what the needs are. So I want to make sure I understand kind of where folks are sitting right now. So if you don't mind, take yourself off mute and introduce yourself. That'd be great. Jenny, did you want to go? I'm Ted. Okay. Travel with my staff consists of myself and 2 part. Okay, great. Thank you, Ted. So you got three total then. Awesome. We've got Jenny and we've got LAS. And Erin's with me, so I already know Erin's story, but she can tell her own as well if she'd like. I know she's on some other calls as well. So who do we have as LAS? I saw that you unmuted yourself. Oh. So Jenny or LAS, can you hear me? I guess it would be one thing. It'd be, at very least, if you can type into chat, that way we know that you're there.
Hi, this is Leanne. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can, Leanne. Thank you.
Sorry about that. I had a microphone set up instead of, our headset set up instead of a microphone. I'm a small shop. I have 2 to 3 people working with me on a normal basis, and sometimes as many as 10, depending on what the project calls for.
Excellent. What kind of work do you do?
I do marketing consulting. I focus on licensing, best practices, and I'm a fractional licensing director. And then I do a lot of work in trends and competitive intelligence.
Wow. Sounds like some cool stuff. I'd like to learn more.
It's fun.
And when you say licensing, you're actually helping to license products or services or IP?
Yeah, IP. So in the sense that everybody understands, it's the transaction for the t-shirt company that puts Mickey Mouse on the t-shirt. But I work across food and beverage, housewares, home, gift, all different kinds of categories with both licensees and licensors. Small startups all the way up to like Fortune 50 companies.
Very cool. Yeah, we've developed our own IP over the last, we've been in business for 12 years, and the last half dozen or so we've developed our own IP. And there's always that question of how do you go to market with it, because we do have partnership relationships now that we're developing that want our IP as part of their solutions. So obviously licensing would be
it's a great way to get farther faster, as I tell people.
What office are you out of?
Primarily Edina.
You're Edina? Okay. Yeah, we're St. Louis Park, so pretty close. And we visited all the other ones. Jenny, are you available? Nope, Ted's in Woodbury. Cool. Jenny says hello. And Aaron's working with me. So are you able to share a little bit, Jenny, of your organization structure or anything, where you're located? Might be catching her busy lunchtime. And I know there's a few other people that may join us as well. I know we had a little bit larger number on the registration side. Things come up and we're recording as well. So folks can be able to go back to that. So the concept of navigating team effectiveness came up. We've been doing team development work, for years, for decades. And obviously we have a bit of a nautical tone to our branding and whatnot. And what we really liked about the concept of navigating team effectiveness is that when you're out on the ship or whatnot, there's, things are always moving, things are always changing. And how do you continue to have data points that let you know where things are going on within your team as you're servicing your clients and doing the work of the business that you have going on? And with everything that was going on with COVID and just, the social distress and everything that's happening, how do we have a sense of where things have shifted, right? One of the things that we do when we anchor out at night, sometimes you wake up, you get up every, 90 minutes or whatever to see, have we shifted at all? Well, there was a lot of shifting going on over the last 18 months or so. And this also has provided, and we've had a lot of folks coming to us saying, things are just different now. Things have changed. How do we get a sense of where our current state is, and how do we start to work forward, knowing that things are going to continue to kind of shift and go forward? So the concept is one that is really struck a chord for a lot of folks. In fact, we work with a lot of county government as well, and we've had Union County, one of the largest counties in North New Jersey, contact us and said that's exactly what's happening. And the whole concept of the Great Resignation is also really true. They've lost quite a few folks. We have another outfit out of New York where they had 80 employees pre-COVID, and they're down to 36 now, and it's all because of the Great Resignation and the shifting. So it was a concept we heard a bit about, but not everybody really has experienced it. But we definitely have had some examples. We ourselves, we start with this very simple question around what is your purpose? And it's a bit of what we were asking everything. And I see Brent joined us as well. So Brent, we'll give you a chance to introduce yourself. We're kind of open micing it on this one here, and with the small number, making it more interactive. But this question is essential. It's that why, right? It's why does your team or your organization exist? Why do you do what you do? So Leanne gave us a really nice overview. Ted gave us a nice outline of what he does. And for us, and we'll share what we do at Socorro, but this is what aligns your people. This is what gets folks up in the morning. This is what brings them together. Interesting, though, and we have a wonderful gentleman in the Twin Cities by the name of Richard Leiter, who does incredible research around the concept of purpose as well. And I've known Richard and, aligned it with his work. There's so much benefit when you have a strong purpose as an individual, as a team, or an organization, because it gets you through those troubled waters, those troubled times. It builds in resiliency. It builds in the ability to adapt and change in those moments. And it also actually is the number one driver for engagement. So when you have a stronger purpose and people are aligned to it, their engagement levels actually go up significantly. That along with trust, when they trust one another and each other to get things done. So we asked that question, and I'm curious from you what you think some of the answers are. And we asked this pretty generally within a session. I could be running a program with 40 people in the room or 8 people in the room. What do you think the top 5 responses are? Again, this is this interactive piece, so hopefully you're all good with interactiveness. And you can type it into the chat if you want. When you think in terms of purpose in any organization, very generically, what do you think the top 5 responses are when I ask that question? What is your purpose? Say it out loud or type it into chat. You can give one. So profit. Yep. So we do get an honest voice in the room, and somebody will say, yep, to make money, make profit, have cash flow. Absolutely. Thanks, Ted. Other thoughts? innovation, creativity, right? Innovation around the products that we develop, the services we provide, the way in which we serve others. So the whole concept of innovation and creativity, being able to do things in really cool ways. That's definitely, you've hit 2 of the 5 so far. I'll jump in here and offer up one. Just the opportunity to serve. We hear that probably most than anything else. And again, we work with profit, nonprofit, government, the whole spectrum, global, manufacturing, agriculture, service, the whole gamut. And so the ability to serve our customers or our community is something that usually comes up the most. Our purpose has something to do with who we deliver it to. From there, it's that innovation piece that Ted brought up. Be able to make things or do really cool things, right? Getting the work done, that innovation side, the creativity around how do we go about servicing our customer. Then we do here to make a difference, and a lot of times that's also to make money. So it's the profit side. So it's that whole return on what it is, the impact that we have as a result of the work we do. People will talk about just the fact that they get to do things that they love. Now that gets back to the work and what we do, but it's more than that. It's kind of that passion. It's really tapping into the engagement side of them. So people will speak to that and the fact that they just love what it is that they do or who they do it with or whatever the concept is, but they really speak to engagement. And then, finally, the one that gets brought up, about 1 out of every 5 times is the fulfillment of the mission and the vision. People will literally quote their mission statement and say, this is what our purpose is. This is why we exist. And if you don't have that as an organization or as a team, I would encourage you to spend some time on it. It's a very powerful exercise. You can do it over lunch. Or just a 90-minute type session where we just really focus in on is who do we serve, how do we serve them, and it's the why. It gets down to that why piece and spending some time on that. It does provide a better true north than just saying we're here to make money. We've all sorts of research has been done on that and how we kind of sub-optimize ourselves when we're not focusing in on kind of a bigger picture or a greater good, if you want to look at it that way. What we've just created here is the left side of the leading from the Helm model. So the leading from the Helm model is a creation that came about back right around 2010. And we were working with various organizations, and we were doing a lot of reflective work on all the models and the different tools that we had worked with in the years that I had spent at Cargill and Carlson Companies, Eaton Corporation, Pillsbury, Pfizer Pharmaceutical, and other companies that my crew members had spent time on. But we were exposed to a lot of really cool tools in those years, and we decided, hey, let's simplify this so organizations of all sizes, but especially small to mid-size. My dad had a 55-person printing firm for 35 years in the Twin Cities and Golden Valley, and I always thought, man, the things that I learned in those big business organizations, global, to be able to apply some of those to my dad's business would have made such a difference for him. And I always thought about, what can I do to give back that way? So leading from the Helm came up as a whole systems approach to organizational effectiveness. It's a systems approach, meaning if you do something to one of the spokes, you're going to impact the other 7. And so that's the kind of the macro focus that we look at. And when we look at the left side of the Helm, basically what we're looking at is this concept of the Balance Scorecard, right? It's our ability to drive organizational performance. High engagement drives great process and innovation, which delights your customer, which provides you the results that you're looking for. So that really becomes, again, that left side is that focus around drive and performance. So having a true north statement around purpose is powerful because it aligns the rest of the model, and it helps to also build out the right side. So for Sikora Consulting, we help people take command with purpose to find meaning and passion in their career, their leadership, the organization that they live in their life. So it's really focused in on the fact that everyone is a leader. Everyone has the ability to make an impact and make a difference. But we also look at it from an organizational perspective. We help organizations work together towards a unified purpose to maximize organizational effectiveness and employee engagement. So kind of a dual purpose statement there, but I think it's very important to delineate the fact that we talk about the people and we also talk about the organization, and then ultimately what we're talking about here, and that is the teams as well. So my passion for 30 years, like I said, has been really looking at employee engagement and the impact that we have on driving that first part of the Balance Scorecard. But what I've found over the years is there's a lot that makes that up. And you will hear the statement, people will join great companies but leave bad managers. There's truth to that, but there's a whole lot more actually baked in than just that. It is true. Individuals wanted join, especially now with the millennials and everything else. People really want to join organizations that do have an impact and make a difference. They're socially responsible and all that. And so it's really tough, for people to just align to the fact that I'm going to get a paycheck. When my mom and dad, for them it was all about just providing for the family, and you did it however you could. Now there's a little bit more selectiveness around that. So really getting clear around that mission and vision is important. Then we celebrate the fact that everyone within the organization has leadership within them. We all have the ability to build up the purposeful culture of trust or to break it down. And so having individuals understand that I have that ability based on who I am. So my unique leadership style is important because it's what I bring to the table. And we need to be able to recognize that in others and appreciate the differences that we all bring. But it's also important to note the consistency and the impact that we have on culture. So culture becomes a critical component around how culture aligns to your strategy and how leadership sits in between that. When you have a purposeful culture of trust, that's when teams are highly effective. Teams work really well together when they trust one another and they're working out that. And when there's a lot of instability and inconsistency and things like that, and given the environment we're in, there's been a lot of that. It becomes harder and harder for the teams to kind of work through that. And that's why organizations are taking the time right now to kind of just sit back, create that space, take that collective breath, as it were, and allow everybody to kind of come together and say, okay, let's reignite the why. Why is it that we come together, and what can we do to support one another in that? And that's when engagement drives at the highest, okay? Yes, you can have a poor leader, but as long as they're not undermining trust and they're not, doing that, you're fine. You can really actually operate. A lot of folks aren't great managers or great leaders or great developers. They're good at what they do. They're just not great on the people side. But it's important that team come together and they're a cohesive team. We call that a sense of belonging, when you have a strong mission and you have folks that care about one another. So on this right-hand side of the Helm, it's all around maximizing human potential. All right. We do that through that shared purpose by discovering the leader within, by developing that purposeful culture of trust, by navigating this team piece that we've been talking about, and then ultimately create an employee-led culture of engagement and performance. So I'm just going to pause there. Any thoughts, reactions, questions related to the Helm? And Brett, if you want to do any quick introduction as well, that would be great.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Can hear you perfectly, sir. Thank you.
All right, sorry about that. I got a little lost on my way in. I didn't have the link in my calendar request, so I had to go hunting for it.
Yep.
My name is Brent Chapman. I've just started a business. I've left some employment about 12 years in length, working as a fractional CFO, and probably my first real significant client will be my former employer. I jumped on here with my wife today, who is going to be helping me do some things in the business.
Beautiful.
And I just took a chance at taking a listen based on what was in the newsletter for OffiCenters. So I appreciate the invitation.
No, appreciate you sitting in. And yeah, we mentioned we just spoke at a virtual coast to coast conference from New York to Hawaii, and we were the capstone keynote for it. And when we look at the concept of the Helm, there's a lot going on there, but really it's a simplified approach that really helps small to mid-sized organizations, get aligned on these different dimensions. But at the same time, I'm working with global, organizations that use this as kind of the blueprint and the framework for measuring on a quarterly basis and making sure that they're, taking care of what it is that they need to take care of and drive the things that are most important. So it really does offer the ability to flex based on the size. So as you're doing, fractional CEO stuff, this works as a really nice framework. A lot of folks are familiar with Traction as a tool. Traction is a good strategy execution tool. It's very complementary to this. This one brings in much more of the human potential side as well. And it takes more of a systems theory approach, meaning we know that when we're affecting one area, it's affecting the others, and it's balanced. It's holistic in that sense. So we bring in all different areas. So thank you for that, Brett. Any other questions or reactions to the model and what has been presented so far? One of our crew members, Ian Stevenson, was the head of organizational effectiveness for Cargill for many years, and he actually ran many different business units while he was there as well. Every time we get asked to go in and run strategic planning for an organization, I say, okay, what model do you want to work with this time? And he always kind of laughs. He says, I want to work with the Helm, because he says the Helm provides that holistic approach. It's not just strategy, it's looking at the whole system. But one of the things that Ian loves about the model is this concept of polarities. A polarity is where you've got two opposing things, and it's not one or the other, or one is right, one is wrong. It's both. The simple example I always give is introversion and extroversion. People say, I'm an introvert, I'm an extrovert. Well, no, you're actually both. You have both within you. And it's a question of where is your preferences on some of these things. And when you hear conflict within leadership teams and things like that, a lot of times if you listen closely, it's not one is right or the other is right. They're both right, but they're actually pulling on a particular polarity. And one of the classic polarities that there's a lot of reading and research on is that polarity between strategy and culture. You'll hear people say, yep, you got to have a good strategy, you got to have a good true north. But if you don't have a culture that's aligned to that strategy, the culture will literally eat the strategy up. I think there's a famous article out there that'll eat it for lunch or breakfast or twice for dinner or something like that. But when we work with county governments and other agencies that have leadership that's been elected in, the culture will sit back if they don't agree with the strategy or the approach of the person. They just no, we just wait 4 years. It'll all go away. They have the patience apparently to do that. And so, really looking at the alignment of culture, and you'll notice that leadership sits in the middle of that. Leadership is that conduit to say, okay, here's the direction we're going, but here's the culture that you need in place. And we'll show you here in a second what a balanced model of culture looks like, and how it is also based on a series of 8 polarities. The other one that's really powerful here, and we see this all the time, and this is speaks obviously to the team part of the focus of this talk, and that is between the people and the process. And myself and Aaron Barwitz, we're both master Six Sigma type folks, and we can come in and do process re-engineering. We work with a lot of process folks. And they'll always say, we can clean up the process stuff just fine, but then you got to have this people side. The people side always messes it up, right? And vice versa. The people are trying to work together, but the processes are broken. We do we'll do it with you here in a second, but just kind of an ordering around, what's most effective to least effective. Well, 9 times out of 10, process comes in as the least effective of the different spokes of the helm. And what we find is that just causes a lot of tension and friction amongst the team. So we're going in there trying to do this really cool team effectiveness work. We find out it's really the work processes that are getting them frustrated because of the way things are structured and managed. So getting that polarity taken care of, and guess what? Employee engagement sits right in the middle of it. Process is also linked to a third, and there's as many different polarities in this model as you can make up, but these are the 3 big ones. The other one is also tied to process, and that's of results, because if you're measuring your processes on cost, quality, time, satisfaction, utilization, volume, all of those incredible metrics that are out there, that's what's giving you a leading indicator of where your results are. Well, what sits in the middle of that? Your customer. Your customer is who gives you voice to their needs. And that's the design criteria by which you build your processes. And if you price things right, you build it right, you're going to receive the results, which then allows you to sustain and grow your mission and your vision of your organization. So those are 3 powerful polarities, but any combination within this helm also works that way. Those are the ones that just kind of come out the most. So it's just something to share there, and again, how team fits in there. If you want to do this, you can. Otherwise, I was just going to open it up from a conversational standpoint. If you have another browser open on your phone or on your computer, if you type in www.menti.com and just put in that code, it's kind of cool. This survey will actually pop up, and it's your opportunity based on the organization that you're currently working in, or it could be an organization that you're currently serving. And you could say, okay, what is most effective to least effective within that organization? So it's a kind of a cool thing. When I've had this with over 100 people in, and we get the data, it pops up pretty cool. You can either do it that way, or I'm just kind of curious for your high and low, where what sits at the highest for you, what sits at the lowest when you look at the 8 spokes of the Helm. If you can do it in the technology, it's fun. If you want to have just a conversation, that's cool too, or if you want to type it in. Is it working for folks? If it's not, I don't want to take your time up with it. What's nice about it is once you're in there, the other surveys that we do will pop up automatically, so you don't have to go back in again. It's just going to be there for you. So if you do it once, it'll set up. We got a couple other quick ones that we have elsewhere in the presentation. There we go. So it's kind of cool. It gives us a count in the bottom right, lets us know. So whoever was able to offer up, we had strategy and customer as the top 2, and leadership, and then culture, team, and process on the bottom. See if we can get at least one other person in there. See what happens with the data. Well, what this does for us though, and when we run this as a facilitated exercise, it paints a picture. It paints a really interesting picture. And once it does, we will start the conversation. We say, okay, what does this mean? This is what we call the positivistic side of the data. Give us the interpretive side. What does this mean? How does this show up? And all of a sudden they just start pouring out. I had a leader today who said, and if you need me to leave the room when we get to this part, I said, you know what? Sometimes I say, yeah, but rarely I do. Most of the times people just start sharing, and they'll even say, if the leader wasn't there, they're like, where is she or where is he? They need to be hearing this too, type of thing. So it's an opportunity for folks to really share, where things are at and what's working, what's not. So we'd be able to talk to. So what about results and culture isn't working? What about strategy, engagement, and customer are? And they'll just start talking about it, and they'll start talking about the relationships. So you can see that this just acts as a really nice diagnostic tool that you can use at any time with your team members just to see where things are at. All right, so this is the organizational Helm. I'm going to move through this pretty quickly because I want to get to the team section for you. But we've been working with the organizational Helm, like I said, for a little over 10 years now. We've been working with the concepts of it for well over 30. But a few years ago, we were doing a bit of an offsite. And the revelation hit us that, go figure, right? Organizations are made up of a bunch of individuals, right? Okay, makes sense. Well, we knew that. But what we didn't really think about was that we could develop a model for the individual. And what we found is that this really took off. The engagement of the individuals participating in our sessions went exponentially up because we were speaking again to them. It wasn't about just the organization, it was about themselves. So how does their purpose align to that of the organization? We will talk about leadership. One of the, I'll show you this in the model. Self-awareness is at core of the leadership development model. Again, just having the conversation this morning with the senior director, that's what she wants. She wants individuals to gain that depth of awareness of self and others. Values, how does that align? Your crew, that's your inner circle. Those are the people you trust. Passion, the things you love to do. Talent, the things you're good at. And the opportunity you have on a daily basis to serve. Ultimately, the impact. And what's interesting is we only know a fraction of the impact that we have and make on others. So in December of 2019, we kicked off the book around the leading from the Helm model, the organizational Helm. But because of COVID, we decided to do a shift, and we actually wrote the book on the individual Helm as a result of letting and helping individuals navigate with purpose. So as they're going through this change and everything else, we wanted to put something in the hands of individuals as they were going through. And then of course, George Floyd, that happened here in the Twin Cities, and everything continued to kind of spiral in a lot of different directions. And so we used that summer as a way to do it. Now, as a result, we not only offer the book, but there's a course that goes along with it. And we just kicked off another cohort around the course last Wednesday, and it's a 10-week course. It goes through each of the chapters, and we already have demand for folks that want to kick off another one in November and another one in January. So it just becomes a cohort. You're able to work through the chapters of the book. It has a fable based in it, but we just want to offer that up to everybody here on the call. Another form of technology, if you text that number in, just text it in and type in book, it will pop up a link that you'll go in, provide your information, and then a code will come where you'll be able to get a free ebook of the Grab the Helm book. Now, if you want the hard copy version, obviously, I'm sitting here with one, or the audio book is actually fabulous. We've got 2 of our crew members who are professional actor and actresses. So if you like audiobooks, there's an audiobook. And if you're interested at all in the Grab the Helm course, all you do is type in Grab the Helm into Google, and it'll pop up, and you can go out there. And I'm not sure if Erin, she was on the call, if she's got the November and January dates set in there, but at least it gives you the outline. But if you want a free ebook, this will get you a free ebook, okay? So that's something that's available to you there as well. And you can email me and text me or whatever, and I can get you all this information as well. All right. Real quick on this whole concept of 4 colors. You're going to see literally all the models we work with have this basis of the 4 colors and then the 8 styles that go along with it. Now, this was a concept that was presented to me years ago, back when I was at Carlson Companies. And what I have found over the years is that anytime the 4 colors and the 8 style piece is part of a model, it pretty much ensures balance and a holistic approach to things. And I thought that was just amazing, because I've worked, again, with so many different models that I found myself mapping to see if it fits. I just came across another tool, Predictive Index, and sure enough, it maps into the 4 colors. And so it gives me a sense if everything's there. Well, in 2016, one of the things we decided to do after we had worked with leadership and culture and team, we decided to look at it through the engagement lens. And what we found was that the engagement models, including Gallup's Q12, was absent some of the dimensions of the 4 colors in the 8 styles. And so we were able to fill those in and build in these balanced things. So the only reason I present that is you're going to see these 4 colors and these 8 styles come up quite a bit, because what it does is it lets us know whether or not we're working from a balanced perspective. So when we look at the leadership spoke, again, our focus for a lot of what we do is in the green energy of leadership, understanding self, understanding others, and building trust within those relationships, okay? When we're working on deep leadership work, that's where it starts, okay? If we're looking at broader leadership, it's about vision, it's about results, it's about change leadership, and then you get into this advocate and process leadership as well. So it's a great foundational map when you're looking at leadership development within your organization, but I will let you know that the green energy is a lot of where we start and where we focus. And if you're familiar with Jim Collins' Good to Great work and a level 5 leader, guess what? That's all green energy. It's all around loyalty, trust, and humility and all of that. Results, you got to get results to keep the business going, but for it to be sustainable long-term, you got to have the green energy go along with it. So personality styles is one of those aspects of understanding self. Won't spend a lot of time here, but it is something that I've always offered folks at OffiCenters, is to experience a powerful holistic profile around yourself and what your unique leadership brand is, okay? And it takes into account your MBTIs, your DISC, your Facet 5s, your Luminal learnings, your predictive indexes, all of that. But you'll be blown away by this tool. It prices out at about $250 typically. There's an activity that we do around it to determine kind of what color energies you see yourself with. But rather than spending any time with it right now, I just want to offer you up again on that text. If you text 4 colors, and this is something that, the link will come through. Brett, if you want to, offer the link also to your wife, both of you. What's really cool is we can actually do comparison reports as well. One of the top executives at Polaris, she took it, and then she had her husband take it. We did a comparison report. She said it was one of the best 3-day weekends they ever had. I'm not going to give any details, but it was powerful. And he then took off and followed Scott Wine to Scott Wine's current company. And so now he's like the CIO there. So it's pretty cool. So they're looking at integrating that as well. But great profile. You'll really get a kick out of it. It takes about 12 minutes to complete. It'll get sent directly to you. So something for you there. So we're working down. We did leadership. Here's culture again. 4 colors, 8 styles. But this is where I told you, each one of these relationships is based on a polarity. So this isn't a polarity of good to bad, right or wrong, one or the other. It's both. Okay, organizational focus, are you more internally or external? Well, each of us has a preference. Each of us has a perception. And then we have, what is the priority? What does it need to be to let that strategy take off? We had a consulting practice in the Twin Cities. You would know them if I shared their name, but they did a lot with Microsoft, right? And so they did a lot of Microsoft support with the companies that they worked with. And then they decided a few years ago, it was quite a few years ago now, you'll get it. They decided to go big data, right? When big data was really happening. So they developed this offshoot into big data. And that particular offshoot struggled until we came in and we said, well, look at it. Your culture for Microsoft is way over here on all these indexes, but it's way over here on the big data because it's, high risk, it's this, it's just a different culture. And they all sat back and they're like, well, so what do we do? And it's like, well, the fact that you brought awareness to it, if that's the right culture for that group, then let them have that culture. Let this group have their culture, and we call it an approved variation. You know that it's different as opposed to all the Microsoft people telling these people you're doing it wrong. They were doing it right because it was there. So it gave them that space to go, okay, we can have 2, distinct cultures within the same organization. And when you got a, company like Cargill that I was working for, Cargill has its culture, but nonetheless, it's got like 72 business units, right? And each one of those business units had its own culture. And so you need to be able to honor the differences in those as well. So the culture piece is a lot of fun to work with. It's a great, what we call appreciative inquiry, facilitated discussion. All right, the reason why you came here, team effectiveness. So you may be familiar with Lencioni's 5 dysfunctions or 5 behaviors of a team. If you look up on my shelf up here, Lencioni usually has red label books. So his books are right there. He's got one white label as well. So somebody encouraged me to go ahead and color code my books because aesthetically it was supposed to be more pleasing behind. So I don't know if that's true for you guys or not. But Lencioni is famous for his 5 dysfunctions. What's interesting, of course, what do I do as soon as I get a new model? I plot it to the 4 colors and the 8 styles to see where it comes out. Well, 2 of Lencioni's 5 dysfunctions show up in green energy. 3 of them show up in red energy. Awesome. He's got a great polarity dichotomous model. Works really well, and it's very successful, and it's obviously made him a lot of money in implementing it. But when we looked at it, we said, well, wait a second, what about yellow and blue? We need some color energy there. We need some things there. So inclusion, collaboration, agility, continuous improvement, process, alignment, those are all critical components as well. So we're able to build this out. So this is used then as a diagnostic as well as leadership and culture and everything else to look at where are things effective from a team standpoint. And so just want to pause here and kind of get folks' perspective on this. So as we look at the navigating team effectiveness, we look at all aspects of the Helm. This is just where the deep dive kind of goes in. This becomes a diagnostic priority. And if you're familiar with like 2x2 grids, and I apologize because I don't have one to share, and I should have actually put that in there. What we ask is, how effective are you on all 8 of these? Okay, on like a 1 to 5 or 1 to 7 scale, it really doesn't matter. But how effective are you on each of these? And then how important are each of these to being, within your group and what you're working on? Somebody may say, collaboration isn't that effective or something like that, or inclusion or whatever it happens to be. But it's interesting how people will rate effectiveness versus importance. And then we had a third dimension, and that is if we were to focus on 2 of these dimensions or aspects, over the next 3 to 6 months, which 2 would you pick? Now, most people will say, well, it's either going to be the most ineffective or it's going to be the 2 that are most important. And Interestingly enough, it doesn't always work out that way. By asking that third question around what should we focus in on right now, we'll get stuff that's highly effective and highly important. We'll get stuff that all over the map, but it really starts to tell the story again. Where do we need to focus right now to get us through whatever it is that we're working on? And just by asking that one question. So again, 8 aspects of team. Where are we most effective? Where are we least? What's most important to you? What's least important? And where should we focus right now? Those are the 3 questions that we're asking when we're looking at this particular model. So this would be the effective one, and this is where the focus area would be as we go through that. So if we can give that a shot. Let's see if I can get that to activate. There you go. So right now, again, you guys are dealing with some fairly small teams. We as a crew, we're playing between 8 and 18 people, depending upon, the work effort that we do. But we've got a core of about, 5 to 8 people that are, working. So we're used to the whole small team thing. But from your perspective, when you look at the concept of team, again, what would you put as most effective right now for you? What would you put as least effective? Have some fun with the rate ordering, see what comes up. Basically, we're going to end up asking just 2 of these questions. One is the effective question. The other one is going to be, what would you work on? We're throwing out the importance one for right now. If you do throw out one, that's the one you can throw out. Just curious to see where the data comes out. Will, you can go in here too, man. You can be popping stuff in, man. You work with that OffiCenters group.
Yep, I'm doing one right now.
Cool. It's kind of cool how things show up when people are working on it. When you got like 90 people doing it at once, it's like, woo, it's like fireworks. There's all sorts of cool tools out there. Menti is one that we've worked with for a few years. It comes out real well. The data sits on a website, so afterwards you can actually download the data. You can use the PowerPoints in different ways, but there's all sorts of new tools that are out there right now. Obviously, Zoom itself has a polling system in it, but you have to, it's only good for the one moment. Oh, we got 4 different responses so far. This is great. Wow. So most effective right now is trust and shared purpose. Well, I got to tell you guys, you hit the jackpot there. Trust and purpose is what we call the super factors of engagement. So there's 8 factors of engagement. Trust and purpose are the 2 that the research has clearly shown that if you have those 2 battery posts working well, everything else can kind of work out. All right. Process is least effective. That's not unusual, right? I mentioned that before in that agility piece. People are forced into a lot of agility in continuous improvement based on where we're at. So great metrics there. Appreciate it. And then I'm going to ask the same question I did before then, and we got some folks that have already jumped in there. If you were to work on 2 areas right now to make an impact in your organization on team, what are the 2 that you should focus on that would really help you out a lot, that you'd really benefit from? If you said, okay, the next 3 to 6 months, because we always say we love the model of 8, but as you may be aware, if you try to do 8 things, 6 to 8 things they say at once, you're going to do it fair to midland, right? If you try to do 10 to 12 things at once, you're going to do them pretty poor. But if you focus on 1 to 2, 2 to 3 things, it's amazing how effective things are when you're doing it and able to focus in on those few. So a lot around collaboration coming through on collaboration, inclusion, alignment, process. A lot. When you talk about alignment and process and continuous improvement, there's a lot going on there. Agility typically is another one that gets thrown in on that mix. But a lot about just how does work get done, right? So the collaborative and the inclusion is the who, the process and improvement and alignment is the what. So you guys have that dichotomy working pretty well right there. But the collaboration piece, and the collaboration, I like to think a lot of times does start with really understanding self and understanding each other. So being able to do that powerful, what we call that discover the leader within and that navigating team effectiveness program is really helpful for that. So the product sheet that we have out there is, around navigating team effectiveness, speaks to the 8 aspects of team, but it also brings in the aspects of the Helm. And so even though the focus is on the team spoke, we bring in each aspect because those are the things that surround it, right? The one thing that we don't spend much time on in the core program is process. Process takes on a bit of a life of its own. So what we do is we acknowledge process when we're working on the right-hand side of the Helm. And then if the organization or the team says, okay, we want to do a deep dive on process, we say, okay, let's get the team working together well. And then myself, Aaron Barwitz, or one of the other crew members goes in and we can run a Kaizen event, we can run a process management type event, whatever it is, and have fun with processes, right? It's amazing though, whenever we do that within an organization, the return on investment is usually huge. They're all tentative of wanting to do the work, but then once they get into it, they realize the huge value. This is just a quick example of two when we run the Navigating Team Effectiveness program and the personality styles tool that we're offering you. You can plot their natural and their adaptive styles, and you can see where people show up and the mix that you have and how things work. So obviously this is my crew, and there's quite a polarity between the green and the red energy. And we got that one lone star, a blue energy, which is more of that analyzer implementer. And then you got these facilitators down here and promoters. So it's quite an interesting mix, but we start to see the dynamics of that. And then, as I mentioned before, for me, my passion has always been engagement. So at the end of the day, how are individuals motivated and driven? And so back in, like I said, 2016, we did a full metadata analysis on all the research on engagement, and we plotted it out. We got rid of all the lagging indicators. Those are all good measures. Things like, I'd recommend this as a place to work and all that. That's a lagging indicator, okay? That's something you benchmark yourself against other companies. We looked at just leading indicators. What drives engagement? What can somebody take ownership of and do something with? So these are the 8 factors. Agility did not exist in any of the research. Gallup didn't have it. None of the models had it. So we filled that space and we put that in. Obviously, it's critical with everything else that's going on. And as we've done the data collection over the last 4+ years, and we presented at the 2019 HR Tomorrow conference at the Carlson School of Management, that's when we and others were finding that purpose and that trust polarity is just critical. Those are the super factors that drive the rest of the model. So when you look at the 8 factors, let's see what we got here. Yep, that one did get inserted in. Always curious to hear which 2 factors right now do you think that your organization would benefit most from if you spend some time on it? Purpose being, again, the clarity around the why and the true north, agility, the ability to adapt, recognition, just being recognized for the good work we do, care about each other, care about who we serve, trusting one another, having somebody that we trust, consistency, development, the opportunity to develop and grow, and then resources, having access to the necessary resources, information, and people to be able to do the job. So I'm curious what you have as your top 2 for that one. That development one's an interesting one. That took on a complete life of its own here within COVID, because folks had downtime, right? And so there was this reskilling, this retooling thing that happened through e-learning modules. LinkedIn, my goodness, I mean, they've just taken off with their work. We've got a bit of a learning platform that we've been working on. It has the grab the helm content in it, and now we're adding the rest of the leading from the helm. And anytime we run a program with one of our clients, we just add that content out there. So agility, recognition. It's interesting when we're in times of crisis. It's interesting how quickly the recognition type stuff goes away, or goes away in a way that doesn't hit people where they really need it. So just understanding how people like to be recognizing, acknowledging them is a big part of recognition. Their opinions, what they have to say. Now, one of the things we'll offer, and I apologize, it's not the full offering here. This is what we call an ROE calculation. If you want to go out online and just calculate your engagement and all of that, it's just a nice little return on engagement calculator. But what I want to offer to you more than that is, if you would like us to do a base measurement on the whole Helm with all the different data collections that we have, I want to make sure to offer that to all of you as part of being part of this. And anybody that happens to be listening on a recording of it as well, we're more than happy to set a baseline metric for you, so you have the metrics here Obviously this is all IP. Leanne knows all about that. So, we want to make this and provide this for you. So we're more than happy. We have everything on a Qualtrics platform, very secure, great dashboards and all of that. The last engagement tool that I want to share with you, though, is this TOPS model of engagement. This is something you do for yourself, but it's a great coaching tool that you do with others in your organization. And you just ask the simple question, how much of your time is spent doing the things that you absolutely love to do and you're really, really good at? Okay, so that's where passion and talent overlap, but opportunity does as well. Okay, so when all three of those come together, it's basically kind of the sweet spot. Now, we also then need to ask, let's say you say it's 60%. All right, well then how much of your time is spent doing the things that you're really good at, but you don't love? We call that duty and obligation. Okay, well, yeah, that's another 20%. Okay, and then what are those things? It's good to inventory those, because guess what? As crazy as this sounds, there's people out there that love to do bookkeeping and things like that. I don't, right? So if I can offload that to somebody else, like Erin, she loves to do it in the crew, and she actually is jazzed by it. Okay, so there's ways to shift work. The other one to ask is, how much time do you spend developing skills in areas that you love? Okay, so you just haven't had the opportunity to develop it, but you think that you may have a passion, or you have a passion for it. So that's development opportunities, and what are those? The last one's, now at this point, you should be at 100%, right? So 60, 20, and 30. Did I do my math right? No, it's 60, 20 is 80, then 20. Okay, whatever it is, whatever equals 100. So you're at 100%. Then you ask the question, what are the things that you absolutely love to do, you're good at, but you're not given the opportunity to do it? And that could be personal or professional, because sometimes there's things that I would love to do in my personal life, but I just don't have the time because I'm working, 16-hour days or whatever else. So it's important for folks to recognize that as well. This is a powerful inventory for everybody on your team to do for themselves. How much time is spent in each of these spaces, and what are the activities that make up each of these spaces? And this really gets into a healthy conversation around how we could shift work around potentially to do that. I have a crew member on my crew right now, Kendall, and she lets me share this with her. She replaced another gentleman who went off to get his master's degree in business analytics. Adam loved doing analysis. All right, that was his thing, but he also did program management really, really well. Well, Kendall has come in and she's doing program management really, really well. But guess what her passion is? Client relationship management. Her passion is not analytics and reporting, right? So I've got a situation where it's like, okay, now how do I make, because every time I bring up analytics, she's like, time out. She goes, you're going into that space. So I have to shift how things get done. And it behooves me to keep her on client relationship management, because her attention to detail around clients' needs are absolutely incredible. Okay, so I need to be able to shift in those types of situations and not force somebody to have to do things that really doesn't bring any passion. It's still work that needs to get done, but that's my job as a leader to figure that out. All right. So the Balance Scorecard, we talked about that. We talked in this other concept of organizational impact. So Balance Scorecard is what it is. But what we go through is we go a step further then and say, okay, what is the impact that leadership and culture and team and engagement has on your talent, on succession and performance of the individuals, on the operational success that you have in the process management? How does it impact your customer and your clients? And ultimately, how does it bring the financials that you're looking for? So one of the things that we enjoy, we've always had a high ROI type of approach. We're very much data driven in what we do, but then it's experiential. How does the experience come together and bring everything together? So that's the added value that we bring. I know our peers, say we definitely differentiate in that space and being able to bring the analytics side. And it's always up to the client. If the client has the data and they're willing to do that, we're able to add that in to show the impact that it has. But again, we're really good at measuring that right-hand side of the Helm. All right, so I guess there's another thing in there. If you want to type in 2 or 3 words to your reactions to what you heard so far, the opportunity is to do that. And it's also here to answer any questions that you have. Thoughts, reactions. We've got the book available to you. We've got the Talent Insights profile available to you. We've got the measurement of the right-hand side of the Helm, which is the Helm itself, leadership, which we didn't do here, culture, team, and engagement. And if you're interested in a virtual or an in-person session, the conference rooms at OffiCenters works really well to bring the team together and get their profiles and kind of do some really cool dynamic exercises, build that collaborative side. Appreciate the words, the helpful, informative, interesting, thought-provoking. Any other questions folks have? That's my little thank you. Unfortunately, out here in Buffalo, Minnesota, we do not have green grass, but the rain this morning might help for that. And then there's my information if you want to send a note there. Any questions, any thoughts? Grateful for everyone's time and attention. Hopefully you're able to eat a lunch as well. Thank you, Leanne.
Thanks a lot.
You bet, Brett. Love to talk about what you do and who you serve, and Leanne as well. I'd love to learn more about the IP side of things. And Ted, he does travel and adventure, so I'm all into that for sure. I love taking my trips. I don't know if we got much from Jenny though. Do we get to hear what Jenny did, Will?
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, hopefully, Jenny, you were able to get all this. I know she said hello, so she was there. But yeah, feel free to send us a note. We'd be happy to jump on a call or meet you at one of the OffiCenters.
Sounds good. Thank you.
You bet. Good luck, everyone. Thank you.
All right. Thanks everybody for joining us today. Thank you, Robert. Have a good one, everyone.
Well, appreciate it. Take care.
Bye now.